Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the unofficial Cheesy Cinema Club Tokusatsu podcast. We this would have been an unofficial Toku episode, but I didn't want to wait for our co-conspirators to for 5 months for them to eventually watch Shin Kamen Rider, and then we'll be talking about it. I wanted to do this as soon as possible.
True, no, I feel that.
Yeah.
Only one day was well, I guess we'll get into it, but only one day was it shown across the U.S.
Shin Ultraman was. They added a second day for Shin Kamen Rider.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and lucky for me because I bought a ticket like a month ahead for that first showing, and then when I went to the theaters, the freaking AMC employee came out and they're like, yeah, sorry, our movie file it's corrupt right now, and so we're trying to fix it. Just give us, just sit tight. And then like 10 minutes later, another AMC employee came out. I was like, oh, I don't know if they told you, but yeah, we can't play it. Sorry.
The first guy should have been like, Shocker actually destroyed the Raws, so we can't show you guys the movie. That really does suck. And I remember. I was texting you during that because I got to see it earlier in the day, and I was like, "Oh, this movie's great." And then you were like, "I'm about to see it," and then like an hour later, you were like, "Fucking show got canceled."
Yeah, it was ass. Luckily, we got a refund, and we went to and you know what? I'll say this: I kind of wish we saw it with that first audience because there was way more people there.
Aw.
I saw a couple of guys with like belts. Did you see any people with belts?
Honestly, no. So I didn't go to an AMC. I went to a Cinemark, and there, it was a smaller theater, like the actual theater itself. But it was still almost full, which I thought was really cool because also saw Shin Ultraman, and that had hardly anyone in it. It was kind of unfortunate because I liked there being a bigger crowd, especially for these movies.
Yeah, because I do think I would have. I'm not saying I would have liked it more, but I think there's something kind of nice about when a niche thing has like a sizable number of people in your area, so everyone could get excited together, right?
Yeah, one of the best ones for me ever was when the Konosuba movie came out. It was just like a full theater, and I hadn't seen a comedy in a movie theater for like a decade at that point, so I forgot what it was like to be like with a group of people like who are super into something watching a comedy. It was so fun. Like everyone was laughing, and then at the end there was a guy that had a Megumin body pillow that he hoisted up, and everyone cheered.
That's so cool. That guy, that man, he's a groomer now.
I thought you were gonna say that man, President of the United States of America.
That man, Joe Biden.
Oh man. Baki Motogatari Megami.
But what was I gonna say? Although the one benefit, and I'll just get this out of the way, it was a funny little thing that happened is that the second theater we went to a different one because we were gonna go to another AMC because we were gonna use like the credits, but this other AMC was like a high class one that has very like annoying seats that I don't like.
Bougie.
Yeah, it was bougie. And it was like in the bougie part of town. I'm like, no, I hate like because I was gonna watch it. I was watching it with my partner and another buddy of mine who lives in the area who I actually saw Shin Ultraman with too. And there was like spaces between the rows, and that's just kind of annoying. So yeah, I just picked a different one that's a little bit more out there, but it's still reasonable drive. And what was great was like the moment like I stepped into the theater. And I see the row that we were assigned. Right behind it was fucking Rocco, Johnny, and Garrett from Mega 64 were just sitting right behind us. And I was trying not to like make a fit because once I noticed someone like in my head, and then I was like, I sit down and I go on Discord and I DM my partner saying, "Don't read this out loud." Fucking Rocco from Mega 64 is sitting right behind us, and they didn't see it. They didn't see it till after the movie, and like I asked, "Did you see my Discord DM?" And then they read it, and they're like, "Oh wow!" Like they didn't even know. And it's funny because I didn't say hi to them or anything because they don't. I didn't want to be that guy. You know, I didn't want to be like,
Yeah.
oh my, like because it just they're just out here chilling watching a movie. And I don't want to be like, uh I'm Cheesymanfredo. I don't want to be that. I did open, I did hold the door for them as they were leaving, and yeah,
Based.
that's how. And that was also my sneaky way to check to see who exactly was with Rocco because I did just notice Rocco. I did just notice Rocco at first because he has the look. He has a very iconic silhouette, and
he does. He really stands out in the crowd.
yeah, he does stand out. And but yeah, that's how I knew it was Rocco, Johnny, and Garrett. Yeah, they're all there.
That would have been like nerve wracking for me. I've talked to those guys before and like I've called in before.
Yeah, me too.
But like I don't know. I would have been like so self aware the entire time because I would just be like, oh my god, because I fucking love Mega 64. So
maybe I could have just like looked at him and be like, just point Mega 64 and just act like I don't know.
you should have been like, oh, are you on Smosh or something?
Hey, y'all, you're super mega.
Yes, that would have been really funny.
Yeah, that would have been good. But anyway, to the meats of potatoes. Jim, I'm very interested. How much before going into this? How much of Kamen Rider were you aware of before watching this movie?
I knew about his name,
Nice.
Kamen Rider. I knew he was called Kamen Rider.
The Mass
I'm aware.
Rider, yes.
Yeah, which is funny because I didn't even realize that until the movie translates, or like the subtitles translate Kamen to Mask.
Yeah.
I am like kind of a Kamen Rider virgin. My buddy who I went to see it with is like a huge fan. He watches like tons of them, like tons of the current ones. So he always tells me about it. So I know a lot of like kind of secondhand info. I knew that the like part of the story was that it's like one dude against like a big organization, but that was all. Like I was kind of surprised by almost everything. Like I didn't realize that like his bike like transformed. The whole thing about him being okay, I don't want to like go into too spoiler, but like I had almost no preconceptions about Kamen Rider.
That's interesting. Your buddy, he sounds like he's more. Is he a bigger fan of like the current stuff, or like more of the Heisei, Neo Heisei, Reiwa era?
Reiwa, yeah, I believe. I'm trying to think. He was telling me about a series that Urubuchi Gen wrote. So the guy that wrote like Psychopaths and Madoka. I think he did a series like maybe half a decade ago.
Yeah.
Or maybe more recent.
I forget which one, but I know he did one of them. Yeah.
And then I think he's watching the current one. But I know most of what he's probably seen mostly like Heisei.
Yeah.
I don't think he's really seen any of the classic stuff. Where like conversely it was different with Ultraman because I remember he bought the first like season of Ultraman and we watched that together and that was really fun.
Yeah. With me is I'm not like one of these days I'm gonna get on watching the more current stuff. I just kind of been lagging because I'll say this, I'm more kind of attracted to the Showa era. I just kind of a bigger Showa era guy in general. And that's mostly because I just like the suit designs a lot better in the Showa era. I think a lot of that I think there's a lot of good suit designs in like everything after Showa. Like there's a lot of good looking suits, but I feel like the majority of them kind of like are just overly detailed and designed. A lot of people like that. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I'll watch any Kamen Rider. I don't care. But this movie, it was specifically catered to like the era that I enjoy and watch because I did notice that like wow, they literally are covering every episode of original Kamen Rider I have seen in this movie.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So
that's really funny.
Yeah, so I was right there. I was specifically a target audience for this. But that being said, did you like the movie, Jim? Did you have a fun time?
I really liked the movie, personally. And it's funny because like, just kind of tying it into Shin Ultraman because that's the one I compare to the most. Shin Ultraman, similarly, like I know Ultraman is still going. I know there's like a million trillion Ultraman, but I felt like that movie did kind of do like the classic. It's because it's like an origin story, and I really enjoyed Ultraman, even like with the I don't want to call it nostalgia, but even with like my familiarity with the series, and I still liked this one more. I liked Shin Kamen Rider more. I think like the direction felt like it actually was done, because Ultraman wasn't done by Anno. This one was actually directed by Anno, and I feel like that really like made it feel like a movie to me. Um,
Mm.
Even though from what you're saying, it sounds like it's similar to Ultraman. It was kind of just like a bunch of episodes that kind of are like
Yeah, I
linked together.
there's one thing I give for I'll say this, and and this is mostly why I want to do this podcast as soon as possible, because I'm having such conflicting feelings about this movie, because it's kind of like if someone,
Interesting.
yeah, because it's kind of like if someone made like your favorite dessert for you, but you're all like, but it's like there's something off about the dessert. I don't know, and it's not like they're
They
trying to
used
poison.
saffron powder.
Yeah, exactly. They're not trying to poison me or anything. It's just that like it felt catered to me, but at the same time, it's like I wish it was a little bit. I wish it was like a little bit more, and like and I think this is why it's interesting. We have both you and me on this podcast. Is that I think I liked Shin Ultraman more, even though I would say Shin Kamen Rider does a better job of like blending things so it doesn't feel too episodic. You know, because Shin
Mm-hmm.
Ultraman obviously feels like episodic, because like once they defeat one alien right next to the next one, right, like right away. But with Shin Kamen Rider, they do kind of like a better. It's more like each encounter with the Ogs. They're called Ogs in this movie.
That's right.
Yeah, short for augmented, and I assume like augmented humans, right? But like they did a better job, kind of like blending each like Og fight, because that's kind of the whole point of the movie, is to take down the Ogs, right? And
And it just from like a structural standpoint,
it establishes that at
if
the beginning that the
yeah,
Ogs are like they're threats and they need to be taken out.
and like maybe this is just my brain being like pelted by anime hormones my entire life, but like when I see like you have to take down a group of 5 elite warriors, like
Hmm.
in my brain it's like that is such a comfortable like story archetype that I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, like now that they have that kind of setup, we can actually get
They
it's a
establish
good framing
a rope.
device.
They establish a rope,
Y-
right?
exactly, yeah, and like we can actually spend time with our characters, and I feel like the acting is like pretty good
Yeah.
in this. Like it's always hard when it's not your native language, but
Hmm.
I don't know any of the characters' names, but I really liked the girl character, the Rei Ayanami character in this one.
You know,
Um,
my buddy made that same comparison to, I think her name is Ruriko, right? Or
yes, that's right, because the one her friend was kept calling her Ruri,
yeah, exactly.
or Ruchan, whatever. But I found her to be really compelling, and like just from like the way that her character kind of grew as the movie went on, and like even we don't really know her whole deal in the beginning, and then when we
Yeah.
find out that she's like weird and like extremely strange.
She's a thing. She's not a human. She's like she's a robot. She's like, they don't specify, but she's just not like a person. You know, like she's kind of an Og or something, but they don't explicitly call her an Og. You know.
Yeah.
Hmm. And it's very, it's I felt like, I mean, I guess I'll go more into it, but I felt like a lot of the emotion was kind of just like staked around her, you know. And
Yeah, it definitely was.
there's this kind of thing, there's this like bit of like backstory for Hongo, who's the first common writer, who like there's this thing with his father that they like make allusions to at the beginning, but they don't explicitly state till like close to like after Ruriko dies, which is like the beginning of the third act. And
Spoilers.
yeah,
I guess we're in spoilers
yeah, we're in
now.
spoilers. So yeah, Ruriko dies. Sorry. But and like the whole like, oh, my father like, you know, died, and he even though he was bleeding out, he still gave a shit about people. And I'm like, they should have like established that at the beginning, you know, or like
Hmm.
at least been more clear about that, so we there's more of like a through line about what's going on. And the thing is, and I think Hongo, like, because I was watching, I watched this other video. I'm not gonna say whose video on YouTube because I don't want to shit on the guy. Um, but they were saying like how much they like this movie, and how it's like, yeah, if you're tired of all the fucking quips of the Marvel movies, you watch this movie. And I'm like, I don't know if I recommend this movie to people who are tired.
Like
Yeah.
Marvel drones. Like,
Yeah, I don't think I would recommend this to Marvel drones or people who are tired of Marvel movies, because this might be a little bit too weird for them. Um, but it's so what should I think Hongo just didn't express much personality. There, like I wish there could have been a little bit more of an arc or something. Like because if his father's whole thing is that like because he mentioned something about how like his dad could have easily because there was like a hostage situation and this guy had like a gun, right, or a knife. He had a
Mm-hmm.
weapon and he had a hostage and this criminal like used the weapon on the hostage and then on his father. And Hongo's like like my dad had a gun, he could have easily used that, he didn't use like the power that was bestowed upon him, right? And I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
like, well, maybe if Hongo was more angry at Shocker, maybe Hongo was like explicitly like bloodthirsty against like Shocker as an organization, and then at the end, the scene where like he just kind of stays there and dies with that guy, right? It's not even like too much of a like he's like like he's dying and he's like, I mean, I guess he is dying and he's giving a shit about someone else, right? But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a lot of it was kind of, I don't know, sloppy. Well, like it's not even. It's like there, but it's like they could have been a little bit more obvious. I guess I think when it comes to like superhero stuff and like yeah, this guy is explicitly the good guy and this guy is explicitly the bad guy. You could be a little bit more obvious with this kind of thing. Like it's okay. What do
Mm-hmm.
you feel? How do you feel about that, Jim?
So yeah, I can't really like I have no like frame of reference for this
I mean,
character originally, but I felt like he was like fine as like a cipher character.
mm-hmm,
Like it's interesting because his backstory, like as you're saying, he's got the daddy issue thing,
mm-hmm.
but he's also like kind of down on his luck. He's unemployed. He's like kind of a bike guy. He's like a motorcycle
These are
guy.
all things they say about him. Like they say these things about him.
Yeah,
And
we don't. I guess we don't really see it.
right.
Especially the bike thing. I wish we kind of saw because like they kind of imply like he's working on the bike in one scene, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, to me, I think that except with the exclusion of like one scene, I feel like there was like enough time devoted to that versus what like the fights because like for me the fights were really really fun
Oh
for the most
yeah.
part. There's one that I fucking hated, but
Oh wait, really? Oh, which one's the one that you hated?
the one where they fight all the other common riders in the tunnel, I just felt like that scene was
Ooh.
like that scene to me felt like a fuck you to the audience. Not only was it like really badly animated and done, it was so dark. And every time a motorcycle exploded, it was so fucking bright that my eyes were like blinded. So I just closed my eyes near the end of that scene because like every few seconds there was another explosion and my eyes just got like flashbanged. So I was like,
Nice.
"Fuck you! Like I don't want to watch this. I'll wait for the scene to end."
It's so funny. It's so funny that you say that because so every fight in this I thought was kind of like, oh, this is like an artistic choice, you know. Because every fight was kind of like different in a way, but I looked it up because I watched it like a behind the scenes video, and it seems like there was this kind of like feud happening between Ano and the fight choreographer, and
That's really
it is
interesting.
very interesting. There's one being very, and this is what I kind of mean about like being catered to the fans of the original, is that there are explicit shots and like fight sequences that are just lifted from episodes of the original '70s one, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of like the weirder things, like when those goons are first when like when Kamen Rider stops like Spider Og's car, and then he's like slowly walking up to them, and Spider Og, those goons like just magically show up right next to him, right?
Yeah, I like that. That was
Yeah,
funny.
that's like lifted straight from the show. The whole thing where they all have the poles and they like they're aiming for his feet and he like jumps up and then they aim for his head and he like ducks down, right? That's like
Uh
lifted. That's
huh.
lifted straight from the show. Um,
Yeah, that something about that felt really
I
like I don't know retro
I
Toko.
even rewatched like that. I rewatched that original like fight scene from that first episode, and it's like damn, there's like so many things just straight up like just lifted, right? Like the whole moment where like they're on the dam and Spider Og is doing black backflips to like scale down, right? There's kind of like
Uh
a thing like that in their original fight where he's like scaling a wall, but like they're fast forwarding it and he's going up of it, and it's kind of like the opposite motion, but it's kind of like the same energy that they're trying to portray.
that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that Ano originally wanted he originally wanted the he told the fight choreographer that he wanted the fights to be just like the 70s show, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I think the fight choreographer said that they can't, well, they shouldn't do that because the style
Yeah.
the style of fighting from that original show was very like, you know, of its time. You know, the fights were filmed like that because that's like the only way they could have done it. And
Yeah, restrictions kind of like dictating how the art is filmed.
right, exactly. And like because he wanted to kind of he was just gonna like do fight choreography like, you know, you usually do in your movies, right? Like, you know, just like how everyone does it, right? You know. And
Yeah.
Ano kept saying that like, oh, this feels too staged, it feels too planned, it feels too choreographed, and it's like, well, there's no real way to get around that because that's what you're supposed to do in in these kinds of
Hmm.
situations. And it was a big thing. Even like if you notice, and here's something kind of interesting because it's something I thought about more, and this like back behind the scenes thing mentioned was that at the opening like fight scene where Kamen Rider is just fucking just like blowing up all those goons and they're exploding in blood, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that part was fucking
yeah,
fun.
that part was great, but like there wasn't another scene. There wasn't too many scenes like that afterwards, right? Like there wasn't any like none of the fights with the Ogs like got that bloody. Maybe a little bit with like Bat Og, but yeah. And I was kind of hoping the other fights would also be kind of bloody, where he would punch them and they'll start bleeding out, right? But and
They just explode.
and then the reason why I learned is that apparently he didn't like the original edit of that fight scene, so they added in all those cuts with like the blood and everything to make it more like
Huh.
violent. Yeah, yeah.
That's really
That is
interesting.
kind of interesting because I think it helps, but I feel like they should have just kept that consistency all the way. But also that one fight you hate where he's fighting all the Shocker riders in the tunnel, that was like the second version. The original fight was kind of like them outside during the day in like an industrial like area, and it was supposed
Hmm.
to be originally like kind of raining and they had motorcycles, and I didn't see any footage of it. I'm hoping if there's a Blu-ray, they have all those like cut fights or all the alternate versions of fights because I really want to see them. Because I think I would have liked that better than the tunnel fight because it was kind of like
Yeah.
a lot of cool things were happening in the tunnel fight, but it was just so hard to see, and it's like, why? Like, why did they? Like,
You have to like lead with your best foot when you're like doing scenes like this.
mm-hmm,
And when you unlike it's kind of like an old meme now that people say like CG scenes are always done at night because or in the dark because it makes the CG look better.
mm-hmm.
And it's like with this it's
It's
like
like
they were
explicit.
yeah, like they were so un like unconfident with the CG that they made the scene so fucking dark.
Mm-hmm.
And like at that point, I don't know. I just ask like, why isn't it shorter? Why isn't it different? Like something that I think one of the reasons why I like the movie so much is like, and maybe I'm curious. So you can tell me if this is not how the original series is,
Mm-hmm.
but it was set in like a very rural part of Japan,
Oh yeah.
and so much of it was shot like on location outdoors. Like there's something like that works really well with like obviously suit actors like this when they're like on location. Like the scenes at the dam were just really cool,
Mm-hmm.
and like even when it went into the backflippy parts, like you couldn't really tell. Like it didn't feel like too weird, like they were just on like a soundstage or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then so for that whole fight to just be like a big CGI mess, it just felt like we're kind of missing the thing that at least makes me happy about this movie.
It's just because over the course of filming, the feud between Ano and the fight choreographer got worse and worse. That at that final fight where they're fighting the butterfly Og, and I
Hmm.
guess you could say the main villain of the movie,
Yeah.
like that whole like struggle fight, which I liked. I kind of liked the ending where they're just on the ground, tired as fuck, just still trying to like fight each other, right? Um,
Hmm.
like that. Apparently, what happened was that he got in such a awful fight with the choreographer that he just left. Like he just left the stage, and there
The fight Ano or the fight
the fight
choreographer?
choreographer he just left,
Damn.
and like they didn't know what to do, and it was a point where like they were telling the actors, yeah, you guys are just gonna have to improvise fights
Oh
right
my
now,
god.
right? And I think that like struggling on the ground must have been one of those moments. I mean, I liked it, but it's interesting. I don't have to. Apparently, so it says that he had to go back and apologize to the fight choreographer, and he was even crying too. to let him know that he was
Oh
serious.
my gosh.
It's it's
Wow, I had no idea.
it's interesting because it's kind of like this is like the first of the Shin movies where Ano has to deal with actual like people physically fighting, because there wasn't any in Shin Gojira, and there was definitely none of that in Shin Ultraman. That was all like CGI fights, so they had like full control over
Yeah.
that. Also, he wasn't even directing that. That was his the guy who did the special effects for
Is the Gamera movies.
the
He was like the
Gamera
Gamera guy.
and the Attack on Titan live action movies.
That's right. Yes, he did do those
Yeah,
too.
so he had I'm pretty sure had a better grasp of like fight choreography from doing like movies like that. And Ano, I think he's just been out of practice since like Cutie Honey because
I was gonna say I've wanted to mention Cutie Honey a few times here.
there was one
But yeah,
moment
that's really good.
there was one moment in the Spider Og fight that felt like, oh, feels like very Cutie Honey when Spider Og takes out those extra arms. It's just like those extra arms that one blue chick
Yeah.
has in Cutie Honey.
Oh my god, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, there's also a scorpion chick in Cutie Honey and in Shin Kamen Rider.
Yeah, they're fucking connected.
Mhm.
They need to go back and rename that movie Shin Cutie
Shin
Honey.
Kitty
That's what
Honey.
they have to do.
I wouldn't mind. At this point,
Or we need to get a proper Shin Cutie Honey.
fuck, they gotta get someone else.
I don't trust
It can't
them.
be Ano again, because yeah,
Nah.
it's and what else again? The movie feels very like I felt like there could have been more moments of like characterization between Hongo and Ruriko. Like they say stuff, but like I don't know. I don't think it's enough. Or like it doesn't feel too poignant. There's this whole
For me, it was just like a lot of like the nonverbal acting, like the stuff with the scarf. I thought was like for me, it was enough to carry my emotion through the movie for them.
I
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I felt like after she died, there was those like video footage of her just kind of like just talking, right? I think yeah, that was very like I wasn't exactly sure how to feel about that because I'm like yeah they're just kind of just dumping all this right here. I mean I guess maybe she's antisocial. I guess she's supposed to be like Ray almost, right?
Yeah, very very funny. While we're talking, I'm just like looking up like art of the character, or not art, but you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Like, there's a whole figure they made of this character. They also made a fucking like trading card set,
Yeah.
and there's a version of her as Ray, literally an official fucking
wow.
Ray, like Ray dress. It's not even dressed up as her. It's literally just
That's just
with
Ray.
the fucking
That's just Ray
trench
wearing
coat.
her trench coat. Yeah. Big
Very funny.
this movie loves its trench coats. I mean, I liked it. It makes Kamen Rider kind of stand out from like previous iterations of this character. Yeah, but I don't know like what else I can say about this movie. What I was very surprised was like I'll tell you one thing. A big thing I noticed they were pulling from was from the manga. There was like a lot from the manga they were pulling from, like Hongo dying and having his kind of conscious being the helmet is straight from the manga, and
That's interesting. I thought that was kind of weird. That was like a weird note to end on.
yeah, it was, but that is straight from that is just straight from the manga. They do that, and I'll tell you this. There's a bunch of like little kind of just I don't know. I don't know if I want to do this thing where like this is a section of the podcast where I talk about every single Easter egg that I noticed from it. Aside from like some scenes just being directly like lifted from the show, one big Easter egg, and then after the movie was over, I realized like what the fuck was that about? Robot Detective K is in the movie, and he just works for Shocker or something. He's just there. You know what I'm talking about? K, the robot.
Yes, okay, I had no idea that was like a different character. He's not originally like a
He was created.
Kamen Rider character.
He was created by the creator of Kamen Rider, but he's like he's his own superhero. He's Robot Detective K, but in this movie he's just K. He's wearing the same like outfit that Robot Detective wears. But yeah, go on.
I found him extremely interesting, and like the fact that nothing happens with him, I guess, does kind of like that is why like he doesn't fit into the narrative. But like, because his whole thing is that he's basically made to experience the world and to experience like human emotion, and I thought that was
Yeah,
it looks like he's got a fucking like a yellow pompadour, but I know that's a hat.
yeah, exactly.
He's got a little like what are they called, those little hats? Um, but I found him to be really interesting in the way that he kind of like works as a face for the bad guys when we
Hmm.
don't really have like a true antagonist. And I loved how he would like pop up all the time and like where he would be like, "Hey, you're here, Kay." Like his whole thing with like the flowers too. Like whenever one of the Augs died, he put a flower on. I just found that very charming. And like I guess you could just chalk this up to him being like one of those characters Ano likes as sort of like an
This is
emotionless
a
robot.
this is a very common thing I notice in okay, so over here in the States, you might never heard of this. There's a little thing called the MCU over here in America.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. So over in Japan, Shotaro Ishinomori, creator, common writer, created a shitload of other superheroes. He's basically like he's basically like the Stan Lee of Japan, because he didn't just create Kamen Rider. He created Go Rangers, which we know as Power Rangers, right?
Yeah.
And he also created Cyborg 009. And Alon,
Ah, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
exactly.
That's
I
really
mean, they
cool.
have the same origin story too. Um,
Yeah, they do.
Kamen Rider is just, instead of a group, is just happened to one guy, right? And
I loved Cyborg 009.
Cyborg 009, great. They should do. Fuck, I'd be so down if they did like Shin Cyborg 009. I think that could be cool for a direction
That'd
to
be really
go.
cool.
But what I was saying was that so they do this. I noticed they do this kind of thing, and they also did this in another anime that's not related to Shotaro Ishinomori. But basically, um, if one creator created all these different superheroes who have their own continuity in certain media, they'll just put all those superheroes in the same universe. Because they did,
Yeah, like the Go Nagai stuff is just immediately comes to mind.
yeah, Go Nagai, like when they make like new adaptation, in some adaptations they just add like, oh, and Cutie Honey also exists in this universe too, or and was it a Giant Robo? There's like a kind of a superhero team, and all those members are actually just other superheroes created by the Giant Robo creator that they had the rights to. And
That's
they
funny.
also did that in the animated movie Cyborg 009 versus Devilman, because in that movie there's like a team of evil cyborgs, and those guys aren't in the original Cyborg 009. All those evil cyborgs are actually characters from other mangas who they just put in this movie. And that's kind of what they did in Shin Kamen Rider with Robot Detective K. Another character too is that the final guy, Butterfly Og, is actually like four different characters from the movie, from Kamen Rider.
So the part when he was like, "I am Kamen Rider Zero," I was like, okay, there must be something about this guy that I just don't
There
quite
isn't
understand.
there isn't a Kamen Rider Zero, so like, I mean, well, actually there is a Kamen Rider Zero, but he's like he's a different guy. But basically,
Of course.
when he first shows up, and he's like, there is like a butterfly monster in the original series. Something I kind of liked. Something I kind of like, and this is another like, oh, this was catered to me, is that all the Augs that show up are like the original 8 Augs that Kamen Rider fights. And there's one they left out. There's like one that's like a saccharin, that's like a plant monster, right? And he's not in this movie, but from what I heard is that there's a deleted scene where they briefly mention him, and they're all like, "Oh, we tried to make like a saccharin Og, but he died in the process because plants and humans can't mix in the process," right? So they almost got all of them, and also there is a butterfly Og, but the thing is that the butterfly guy, when he first like starts transforming, his face resembles Inezu Man, which is another Shotaro Ishinomori character. And hold up, I'm gonna pull up a picture of Inezu Man, but you'll probably like recognize it when you see it. But and another thing is that his belt looks like Kamen Rider V3's belt because it has like the double turbines. And apparently in the art book, they just the name of Kamen Rider's V3 belt is the Double Typhoon, and in the movie in the movie's art book they call Kamen Rider Zero's belt the Double Typhoon too. And 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 the third character that he's a combination of is a Shadow Moon from Kamen Rider Black, right? And Shadow Moon is like he's like a very popular character. He's basically like Kamen Rider's Black Shadow the Hedgehog, and he's super cool.
He looks pretty badass. I'm looking at him
Yeah,
right now.
he's super cool. I'm gonna pull it up here in this chat because to just like later when I edit this, I'm just gonna pull from this. Um,
It's so funny because like being like a Western comic fan,
mhm.
my immediate every time I see the Kamen Rider helmet with like the little antenna, I always think of like original Hank Pym
Oh
Ant-Man
yeah, exactly.
helmet.
Actually, I drew like a Toku Ant Man one time, but that's a conversation for another day. So yeah, he's like just a combination of like just a shitload of different like characters, and I thought that was kind of cool. They kind of do that too with later on. There's like a mantis chameleon og, right? And
Oh yeah, that felt really
that was
weird.
like a double reference because there is a chameleon there's a chameleon monster and a mantis monster who are part of the original 8 monster that Kamen Rider fights, right? And and they thought like, oh well, we can't have those individual fights, so just combine them, which is perfect because here's the thing. And so do you know the reason why there's a second Kamen Rider? Like what's the actual like story behind that?
Absolutely no idea.
Okay, here's how the story goes. So the actor who played Hongo in the original series, he he got into a motorcycle accident, and he
Oh.
yeah, and because of that he couldn't play the character that explicitly rides a motorcycle in the show, right? So what they did was that in literally the next episode, because I watched this go down and I thought like, wow, they did not do any smooth transition. Literally in the next episode, a second Kamen Rider shows up, and he's like, I'm Ishinamonji, and I'm buddies with Hongo. He saved my life one time, and he's currently on a secret mission in Sweden or something, and I'm here in Japan. I'm here in Japan fighting Shocker, right?
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I mean because in real life the fucking actor had an injury, right? So Ishinamonji is like he's Kamen Rider 2 in the meantime, right? But what's funny is that apparently I didn't even fucking know this, and I didn't even notice it when I watched the show either. Was that the actor who played Kamen Rider 2 didn't have like a driving's license. He didn't have like a license to ride bicycles, so he literally doesn't ride one. He himself does not ride one in the show when he's normal human form. So when someone's in the suit, it's someone else riding it.
Someone that actually has that's so fucking
Right, exactly.
funny.
And here's another tidbit. During their fight scene in Shin Kamen Rider, when 1 and 2 fight, the leg that 2 breaks is the leg that the original actor broke in real life.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
exactly. And then after the
Imagine watching that movie and being like the guy that broke his leg and be like, "Oh wow, they referenced my horrible like
well,
leg
he's still
break."
alive. Yeah, so but also what's funny is that then the other reference is that after he becomes good, he becomes good in that moment too, right? He fights the combination Mantis Chameleon, which is
Mm-hmm.
because at that point in the show, once Kamen Rider 2 shows up, Shocker starts making like fusion monsters, right? So that's
Oh,
the first
interesting.
one that Kamen Rider 2 fights. And oh shit, another detail is that so did you watch the scene? Do you remember the scene where like when the butterfly guy shows Kamen Rider 2 for the first time, and he just starts posing. He just does the poses.
Uh huh.
Okay, so that they did that because it was a lot of a lot of the things that we identify Kamen Rider with was created by the second one. So the poses was something that the second one first did, and that's why when he first shows up, he does the poses because he invented that. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so there's like a million different like little references like that, and that's what I mean by like, yeah, this was kind of catered to someone like me. The one thing that I was surprised they didn't do was that when they fight the Shocker Riders, they're just beating the shit out of them. And in the original series, what happens is that the Shocker Riders are too powerful for them. So Kamen Rider 1 and 2 are like, we need to come up with a new technique to defeat them, and they do come up with like a new technique where they like run around in circles around them to stop them. And they don't do that in this in the movie, which I was kind of disappointed because they were pretty committed to like everything else, right?
Mm.
Yeah, it's just so that's what I'm on like kind of the fence about this movie because I feel like just narratively it wasn't the strongest, even though it had all the pieces there, and that's kind of how I felt about Shin Ultraman originally, but something about just Shin Ultraman just kind of, I don't know. I guess I don't know, just something about Shin Ultraman I kind of enjoyed more, and I can't really put it into words right now. You know?
For me, it's difficult because like immediately the comparison is always going to be with Shin Gojira because like
Mm-hmm.
that was just perfect. I have to say, been more of a Godzilla fan in my life. I've never
No, that's fine.
like been super into the other ones, so I'm gonna come in with a bit of bias. But from like a thematic standpoint and like a writing standpoint, I think Shin Gojira is like there's so much to that movie. There's so
Mm-hmm.
much to discuss. There's so much to think about. The ending is like this like extremely haunting idea um, that just like sits with you, and so it's really difficult when they take these properties which are episodic, like these
Mm-hmm.
are like episodic children's shows,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to make a narrative out of it, but it would be I feel like if I was a fan and like just as someone who likes Ultraman, it would be really disappointing if it was like not a bunch of bad guys. Like you want to see a bunch of monsters, you want to see a bunch of bad guys. Like it's kind of how the your brain remembers these series because you're always like, oh, and then there was Spider Guy, and then there was the Wasp
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
girl, and
yeah, exactly.
so in Godzilla Shin Gojira, it was so perfect because it was kind of a remake of the original,
Mm-hmm.
where you have like a very focused narrative, and the moments get like the big moments get like a ton of gravitas, but everything else gets like everything feels like it has a purpose. Where with this, it's like the parts with the bat guy were like really fucking funny, but like so
It
stupid.
kind of was it a COVID reference he was fucking making with like I'm a bad guy and I made a virus because
Okay,
I think
so
the
also
original also had a virus too, but he bit people. That's how his virus worked, and it was like a mind control virus.
the thing with the bat guy that was wild to me was like it seems like he made like a bunch of clones of Ruri
Yeah,
and like he like killed him immediately, which I thought was like fucking
he
wild. And I understand why they
he
did it,
also
but like
had
it was so weird.
Did you notice? Did you forget about the robot sentry guys that he had? That they don't really focus. They're just there,
Yes,
and they never show up ever again. It just seemed like every Og had their own like specific like grunt. Like even the Scorpion Og, she had like female.
the
Yeah, she had the
ladies.
ladies, right? Rest in peace, Scorpion Og. They did
That part was so fucking
they
good.
did her dirty. She
That was so
didn't even
funny.
get like a
And like
Kamen Rider fight. They just fucking blasted the shit out of her.
that whole time with her, I was like, after that scene happened, I was like, what the fuck was the purpose of that? Like, and then of course it does pay off later, because like you learn that the bad guys, the Men in Black, like used her venom
Oh
to.
shit, those guys. God, I kind of rolled my eyes when they revealed their real names at the end because it was such a kind of like a, hey kid, what's your name? Hey kid, what's your name? Peter Parker, sir. Like that.
It was literally the fucking Robin moment from
Yes.
The Dark Knight Rises. Like, you should use your middle name, Robin.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I don't work with no one else. I know their name. What's your name? Iconic character from original series 1 and iconic character from original series 2. And like that's so funny because
this,
you act nothing like those characters. So you know what's the point?
the second they did that reveal, I immediately was like, okay, well, that clearly is like it's just built to be a reference. Like,
Yeah.
I knew immediately that it was just a reference. It wasn't anything else. And I think like we're too far into remake culture to keep doing shit like this.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because I think so many of the other things the movie does for being like kind of a remake, whatever, reimagining, it does a like. I mean, of course, I don't have the original context, but it feels fresh. Like all this stuff still feels fresh. But then you see shit like that, and it's like such an easy like fucking AI could have written it
Yeah,
sort of like line.
true. You know, I'll tell you this. Did you finish watching it and you thought like did you know that there was actually supposed to be a Shin Kamen Rider 2? Like they want to do a sequel. So that's why like there's
Uh,
a
it did seem like that. It did seem like they were setting it up for a sequel more than the others.
yeah, cuz that's kind of a big reason why I thought like well the K didn't get to do anything and I'm like I wonder like were they setting up for a sequel because the butterfly Og wasn't like the leader of Shocker. That's another thing that's kind of interesting. I'm very confused what the Og's role is in the organization because in original Kamen Rider, oh, the Oggs are just like they're super soldiers, you know, and they're sent to defeat Kamen Rider because he's a big threat. Well, in this one, it seemed like the Oggs just were doing their own thing, you know.
They're just vibing. Like they're all just vibing in their own way. Like
Yeah,
Bat is making like COVID 2.
yeah.
Hornet is just like creating like the biggest
Just making a
harem.
castle. There's just a castle to it. It's there for no reason.
Okay, we haven't really talked about Hornet too much. I think is she Hornet?
She's
Is
like
that her
a
name?
wasp. Wasp. Yeah.
Wasp. Yeah, I fucking loved the design for when she actually like went in her like suit mode. That was really cool.
That was a really good
That whole
design.
fight scene was cool too, actually. Even though like part of it, I when I saw that set, I was like, oh damn, they're on like a stupid soundstage. Like I like all the fights that are outside, but I understood why because like immediately they start going fucking Barry Allen, super speed everywhere.
You know, it was so funny is that like a lot of a lot of weirder elements about fights. I was thinking like, were you like kind of felt like, oh, I guess we're doing a sword fight now. Where you did you felt like that when later on?
Yeah.
Well, that happened. I'll tell you this. There's surprisingly a lot of fencing fights in original Kamen Rider. Yeah,
really? That's really
because some of the
interesting.
grunts would just have the fencing sword, and then Kamen Rider snatches one, and they start fencing on top of like the side of quarries.
I fucking love that. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
I love fencing.
That was just kind of like I think because they were just trying to think like, what's the way we could spice up this fight? What if they start
Yeah.
fencing?
They talk to the stunt guy like he's like, I did like 2 years of fencing in college. Like, all right, we're doing a
Well,
fencing.
we got all
scene.
these fencing equipment from this other production. Maybe we could, you two and two
Oh my
save some
God,
money.
could you
Yeah,
imagine?
I'm willing to bet that is the
This-
story. They just had a bunch of fencing equipment from some other production.
The one of the like DPs or like one of the production assistants, his son is like into fencing, so he would just like borrow all his foils
Yeah,
for the weekend shoots. Or
true,
whatever.
exactly. So that's why there's just a sword fight out of nowhere. I Wasp Og was kind of interesting. You know, that's another thing I was thinking. Like, what's the deal with the Ogs? Because it's like, oh yeah, that Og is trying to make a virus that kills people, but Wasp Og is trying to mind control people. Wouldn't both of their plans like conflict? It just seemed like is Shocker some sort of organization that just funds like psychos? It like what?
They just fun, yeah. They're just like they create like superhumans and then they just throw them out in the world like pure chaos
Yeah,
theory.
it's so yeah, exactly, and it's like
The only one that seems to like be doing anything was like Spider Og and the Mantis Chameleon guy. They seem to only be the only like hitmen / super soldier.
yeah,
commandos.
exactly, and like Bat Og, yeah, exactly, and it felt very like I don't know, maybe they could have like. I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunity to give the Ogs a little bit more humanity. I guess they gave Wasp Og some humanity. There's something more going on with her.
Definitely.
But I felt like I don't know. I don't know.
It's funny though because they give her the most like okay, this is like a person that we could like be friends with, but she also like objectively does like the most heinous thing. Similar to like fucking WandaVision, like literally just like removing the agency of like hundreds of humans for an unspecified amount of time.
I
Like
don't.
this is an irredeemable thing for me.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't feel too sad for her. You know, I'm not weeping. So it's just so.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just so fucking.
Uh,
Yeah, I think more could have been done because they could have done the angle with like, oh, these Ogs are just kind of like, you know, there's people under them and they just got caught up in some sort of situation or something, or they're like, you know, they're just trying to they're figuring out this crazy world like the rest of us, you know, or and that could have tied in better with eventually when Butterfly Og, and they you just watch.
Yeah,
him
I was gonna
die,
say.
you know, it's just so.
Butterfly Og's whole thing is like that he's so traumatized from his past and it's like affected him in such a way. And like yeah, I can see what you're saying, like giving the other I guess that's kind of like a Metal Gear thing, right? Like giving everyone like their initial trauma that is what made them become a fucking weirdo.
Oh yeah. Damn, they already mentioned that the whole concept of prana that was created for the movie. That isn't in
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you for saying that because I just assumed that was
Nah.
probably some original content,
Yeah.
like from the original
No,
series.
prana was made for the movie. There isn't prana. No, it's just I mean in the original, there's a lot of things the original show does that's like, yeah, it doesn't need to be explained or anything, or it's very straightforward. Oh, all the kaijins, all the monsters are just like monsters sent to stop Kamen Rider, right?
Yeah.
And the Kamen Rider is so strong because he's a cyborg, and they're all cyborgs, so that's why they're all powerful and whatnot. And this one's like, oh no, they have like chakra, basically. They have like chi now, and
It is, yeah, that's it's very much
and
like
it feels
that.
very like I don't know if that was necessary. I mean, I guess overall, like towards the end, and prana basically just means prana is just like their soul energy, right? Because like if you remove their prana, the people die, right?
That was one of the most interesting like you just utilizations of it was when Butterfly is able to like kind of kill like 20 dudes by putting okay, so yeah, it kind of becomes like the main thing at the end of the movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
prana can be captured and put in like a hell dimension,
Yeah,
and presumably it's permanent. So it seems like these random 20 cops like unfortunately had the worst thing that could happen to you, which is your soul's removed and put in the hell dimension forever. And that's of course Butterfly's plan, as he wants to.
mm-hmm.
Uh, which is interesting. I like the whole kind of narrative idea that like Shocker is like a very utilitarian organization. Like they want to do what's like the best for
Mm-hmm.
everyone, and it
It,
just shows how like quickly that mentality can like it's like the road to hell's paved with good
I
intentions kind of thing.
I don't
Like
even think that was like Shocker's plan, right? They just want like happiness for people, right? Because they're supposed to be like a direct reference to like the happy cult, right?
oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, of course, like Butterfly, the thing that's kind of dumb, like Butterfly, I guess, is just not embracing that idea.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants to commit. He just wants like
Kill
to hurt
people, yeah,
people. So
basically.
because we learn from Ruri that like the Hell Dimension, surprisingly, is not a
Mm-hmm.
great place to go.
Right, exactly. There's like subtle. There's like really. So do you know there's like a prequel manga? I haven't read it because like I'm
Nope.
willing to bet a lot of the characterization in that manga is like, who cares? It's not applied too much to the movie. Although there's like way more like Easter eggs and references in that movie. Like, oh, the reason why we never see Spider Og's face is because he's like burnt. He has no face. Haha. And then again, I didn't even need to know that. I could just assume he probably just has a fucked up face, just like all the other,
yeah,
all
yeah, they all are kind of
yeah,
fucked
all
up.
the cyborgs just have fucked up faces, you know. Um, and fuck, what was I gonna say? Oh, another like little kind of like, oh, this one's for the fans is that when Kamen Rider 2, like a writer chops like the mantis side of the face, is like that's a direct reference to like, yeah, that's how they defeated the mantis monsters. He did a writer chop, and he just did that specifically to that side of the face, right?
Hmm.
Another little Easter egg, another little thing for the fans out there.
You should have done whenever you saw an Easter egg. You should have done what my theater did when I saw Spider Verse, which was clap loudly for 30 fucking seconds every time you see something you recognize.
um, they never like make explicit reference to how the cyclone just like is kind of alive, like it kind of drives itself. Remember that scene where they're just walking
Yes, okay.
casually and it was really
I
behind?
love that
I
part.
thought like, oh,
I love that
is
part.
it
It was
like
so cute. It
is it
was
like an
like
AI?
it's like a little dog that follows
Yeah,
you.
exactly. So I was interested. Like they didn't really go further into that, you know. Uh, but yeah, they're
Yeah.
planning a sequel. I think in a press. Okay, no, the sequel isn't planned necessarily. It's more like Anna wants there to be a sequel, and he has an outline, but he's not super interested in doing it right now because he's been working nonstop for the past like 30 years. If you include the Ava movies all the way to the Shin movies, he's been working nonstop basically, right? So he's gonna take a break, but he does want to do Kamen Rider Mask World is what he calls the sequel, and he's
What does it call it?
Masked World. Yeah,
Oh.
and I mean I hopefully they do because I feel like this one he probably learned a lot, and I'm assuming yeah he'll probably try to make the second one 10 times better because I like Ichimonji as a writer too. I like that he kind of has more of a personality than Hongo, and now he could be the lead. He says he wants to adapt like the final chapter of the Kamen Rider manga, which is kind of interesting because they reveal this whole thing about like, oh, Shocker is working with Japanese politicians, and it's like in my head, because in my head, when I mean, if it's supposed to be like this, if they're supposed to be kind of like the happy cult, they already work with like politicians. I was still kind of like wondering like what exactly these federal agents guys like plan is, because if like they work with like, I don't know, like what they clean up Shocker's like messes or something, like what exactly. I'm just pretty confused on what exactly these guys like goal is. I guess to take down Shocker, but if Shocker is like this big, if Shocker is run by one of the richest motherfuckers in the world, like wouldn't their higher ups be taking, orders from them? It feels
Yeah.
so, I don't know.
And like they don't seem to be like a rogue organization
Mm-hmm.
or like a rogue part of it
Mm-hmm.
either. They seem, because like their resources are immense.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like there's someone like even higher up pulling strings.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
they have eyes everywhere. Like the whole bit where like if you just need to talk to us, just raise your hand because we're always watching you.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I thought that was really
It's
clever.
very interesting. How did you feel about like, um, didn't like Rico like twice in a row did the whole thing where kind of like, you don't come with me. I'm gonna take on this Og by myself.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
did,
I was
didn't
like, what the fuck?
she's a tsundere. She just wanted she wanted him to
I
come.
fucking
But
hate.
she didn't
I
ask
hate
for it.
tsunderes. I hate you. I hate all people. I hate all. Oh, she's a tsundere. No, you shut up. That's not real.
No, you're being a bitch.
I hate you. But
No, yeah, I hate. Yeah,
I
hate
hope
it too.
I hope they do make a Shin Mass World. I heard that like they were thinking about making a Shin Ultra 7, which I'd be totally down for that too. Because it makes a little bit more sense to make sequels off of the Shin movies. What else? The next Shin movie, Shin Go Rangers, maybe. That would.
I guess that's kind of like the natural next
Yeah,
one, right?
exactly. I heard that in the Philippines they're trying to make their own Shin movie. Um, and I don't know. What do you? I think is there anything else you want to say? I think we're getting close to the end on this topic.
Yeah, so just regarding like the Shin movies, I mean, I gladly would watch another Kamen Rider
I would be
one,
down
but
to
I
watch
know,
all three of them in a row. I think that'd be super interesting as a watch.
yeah, it would probably be a lot of
Mhm.
fun. But just overall, like I kind of like that this experiment happened, and
Mhm.
like I like that Anno was the guy behind it. Don't necessarily need more of them.
Yeah.
I just looked up an article from about like 2 months ago where Anno said like, for the first time in 30 years, my slate is clean. Like he has nothing like upcoming.
That's
So I'd like for him to just
Yeah,
chill
that's
for a
fine.
bit, and then. But I really want him to continue doing live action because I really think his like
I think he has a very
voice
Yeah.
his voice as a director is so strong, and I just love it. I think it works so well
Mhm.
to elevate the movie. So I would like for him to not do like a child property. Like I'd like for him to try to do like a serious movie. Not that this
You
was
think
serious,
so?
but you know what I mean. Like
You think so?
I think it'd be really cool if he were to step out of his comfort zone, try and go for maybe like a best international film Oscar, maybe.
That'd be pretty. That'd be something. I'll say that much. That would be something. Damn. What was I gonna say? I was also kind of like after watching it, I was thinking like, why is this a Shin movie? Because like, if the one thing that connects Shin Gojira to Shin Ultraman is like the inclusion of the task force, right? Like that was like a big thing,
hmm
and there's nothing like that in Shin Kamen Rider, you know. And I guess I guess the Shin movies are just like retellings, and there doesn't have to be too much of like a similar kind of DNA. Because in my head, I was just kind of hoping that like they would do like an evil task force or something that's like designed to try to take down a common writer or something, because that's how you can continue the thread. But I guess that's not necessary in retelling a common writer story. But I don't know. I guess it doesn't have to be. I guess I was less interested in just a straightforward retelling.
In our modern world, it like the temptation to have everything be connected is like so
Yeah.
strong that I really appreciate that What Shin means here, Shin just literally means new.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just like the Anno take on Kamen
Right.
Rider. Like, that's just kind of what
Hmm.
we got, and I think that's fine. And like, I've already said it. Like, Anno, obviously, he's one of my favorite directors. Like, his his impression on the industry, the anime industry in general, is like so strong that like it feels great to give him these movies where he's like able to kind of like do shit that he loves. Like you can tell that he like is deeply passionate about these original series. And it's just like yeah, there's something really fun. It introduces like a new audience to these older series, like
Hmm.
me. Um, it's good. Yeah, I would really like to see him do more things. Like maybe not animation. Like I think he's done enough animation.
I think he's done everything he can. Fuck, I'm trying to look up the name of what's the name of the in Shin Ultraman, the one like human lady that's like I'm your buddy, like her.
I can't
That
fucking
that
remember. The girl that gets
yeah,
big.
she plays Scorpion Woman.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's
I had no
her. Yeah, that's
idea.
Scorpion Woman. Yeah.
That part was so fucking funny, the Scorpion woman
Yeah,
scene.
exactly.
I loved like all the fucking riot shields. Like that
Her
was really
her
funny. Like
little scorpion like head thing that moved. Yeah, it's very similar to the scorpion lady from Cutie Honey, right?
oh my god,
and
yeah.
and I think one of the federal agents guys isn't he yeah, one of the federal agents guys is 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 Ultraman, I think. Hold up. I need to double check something.
I'm very bad with faces. I've like face blindness.
I was looking up like oh the actors for Shin Ultraman and they have Hideki Anno as Ultraman and it's like what? Wait,
yeah, he
yeah, he
technically did.
mocapped Ultraman, right? Which is like
Well, no, he did his fan film back in like was it like 82? He did like an Ultraman fan film for like a student
yeah,
film
yeah, I'm
project.
more of the fan film, but in the this says Shin Ultraman
Oh, it actually lists him.
because
Oh, that's really funny.
he
Maybe he did.
mocapped Ultraman, I think, right? Takumi
I didn't know that.
Takumi Sato. Oh, I forgot that his name was Shinji. Yeah, he's in. I think he's in. I think he is in Shin Kamen Rider too. Yeah, he is. He plays the other federal agent guy. Yeah, yeah, that is because I recognize his fucking hair.
That's funny. Oh, there. Well, there's your fucking connection, cheesy.
uh,
It's all the fucking the Nick Fury is gonna walk in. He's gonna be like, "I'm building a
I'm building
shinitiative,
a Shinish. I'm building a
shinitiative."
Shinishitive. Fucking yeah, the fuck yeah, exactly. Ultraman shows up at the end of Shin Kamen Rider. Is like we're forming a team, and then it's like who else is on the team, and then you hear El Gojiro's roar in the background.
and then half of the movie is just them trying to prevent him from destroying whole
Yeah,
cities.
exactly. That'd be sick. All right, I think what I okay I like as a fan of this specific era of Kamen Rider. I love Shin Kamen Rider. I thought it was good. In my opinion though, it's the weakest of the Shin movies. Um, I think they could have done more. There wasn't enough for me. It it yeah, I'm feeling very similar to how I felt about the Mario movie, where it's like yeah, it has everything I like in it, but you know, it just doesn't have enough depth for me. And I think it's not that Shin Kamen Rider didn't have enough depth. Is that I think they could have moved the plot beats around. They could have focused on some things a lot better. Um, the costumes are cool though, and
Yeah, they look
yeah,
great. They looked
I
really
think
good. Spider, I thought Spider Og's costume looked really
I fucked
fucking
with Spider
cool.
Og's costume too, and I liked the Mantis Chameleon Og too. I thought like, oh, that's crazy that these just like split in the middle. I
That was too much for
really I
me.
like that.
When it comes to these, yeah, when it comes to like these kind of suits, I guess less is more, and like it was too much. It was just
You know,
overwhelmed my
it's a
senses.
lot. Yeah, I hear a lot of people really like Wasp Og's costume. Like, I feel like it needed
Yeah.
more. Like, I feel like there wasn't enough in it for me.
Once she like, once she like revealed her shoulder and she had like
The pattern.
the yeah the fake skin and like you could see like part of her like bra like fake bra
Yeah,
thing. I was like, oh, that's really cool because it's like a Just a cool like send up of a kind of
Hmm.
like samurai aesthetic
Yeah,
thing.
that reminds me. Another thing about the movie is like, did you find it was kind of weird when did you think it was kind of weird when they just show up to like Butterfly Ogg's lair and you're like, where is this? Like, I have no context. Is this like a hard place to find? They come back here 3 times, so it must be pretty easy.
It's one of those things that like it feels like it could be in like a gigantic warehouse and that's just like a tiny corner of
Yeah.
it. Like you don't know how big the
Well,
actual
there's like a
room is.
massive tunnel, so I assume it's somewhere that's kind of hard to get to, but I don't know.
Yeah, at that point my brain really was turned
Yeah.
off. I was just like,
I'll,
all right,
say
guys,
this.
let's
I'll say
wrap it
this. I
up.
think I liked the movie more as it kept on going. I felt like as we got close to the ending, I thought I got a little bit stronger. In my partner's opinion, they thought I got a little bit more boring, but to each their own.
Yeah, I kind of
Hmm.
agree. I agree with your partner there. Like I think like part so like going back to what I was saying earlier, like the whole archetype of like you have to beat 5 evil
Yeah,
dudes. Like for me, like when you near the end of that, like inherently, like my imagination is already like getting the size of like what I'm imagining is
yeah,
shrinking. So I don't know. Like I inherently am always just like oh no, I missed when there were like 9 guys that I didn't know who they were, but now I've seen them all and they're all dead.
damn, damn.
But yeah, I think for me the movie probably peaked around like the hornet
Oh wow.
or wasp.
That,
Yeah, I would say that was probably like my peak, and then it was like I mean emotionally though it had some good moments with what's her face dying. That was pretty
yeah,
crazy. I was surprised that they killed her off. Honestly.
yeah. Me too. I was surprised. I think she. I don't know. I don't think she dies in the show. I think she just kind of like just leaves, and they don't explain where she went. She just kind of leaves. Um,
Does he always have like a lady? Is that like a
um,
thing? Like does he always have like a trench coat lady?
no, the trench coat is new. The trench coat was kind of just given to this character, and I think because I heard someone say that it gives a lot of Shitaro Ishinomori like vibes because he I don't know something about the silhouette. It's funny because she actually had like a different like trench coat when original like when like promotional stills of the movie came out. Her trench coat was like bright red, and
Oh
her turtleneck
really?
was like purple. Yeah, and
Huh.
hold on, check this out. Yeah, this was the original promotional.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they changed it though to just have like a
Wow.
brown trench coat and a black turtleneck.
Honestly, I'm gonna say they made a good choice. I'm glad they
It's
changed
more
it.
realistic. I wouldn't mind the red trench coat with the purple because she's supposed to be kind of weird, isn't she? Right? Like she's not um
Yeah, I feel like it would give not give it away, but it would be more in line with like what her character becomes,
mhm.
where she's like this weird sort of like new
Right,
type.
exactly. Man, I think I'm out of things to say about this movie. I mean all I can say is like I liked it, but I think it was just the weakest of the shit movies. And but I do want more. I do think there's a lot of potential in a second one. Fuck, even a third one, dude. I don't give a fuck. I'm just a big Rider fan.
Yeah, they're fun. I will definitely go see more of these. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, anytime they come here, especially when they come to a theater, I'm down to see
Word.
it.
All right, and I think that's it. I think we said everything we can about this movie. Um,
Spider Og was
Spider Man was
great. I
great.
wish there was more of
Spi-
him. I was like actually sad when they killed him because I was like, holy shit! I thought he was gonna be like the sort of like rival antagonist, kind
you,
of like there's always like a henchman that
you know
sticks
what's
around.
funny is I was watching a video and they reminded me that in the original episode where he fights this Scorpion, that character was a buddy of him, like a rival before he got turned into a monster. So there's kind of more emotional weight
Oh,
when he fights like Scorpion, when he fights the Scorpion in the original series. But in this movie, they just like she just dies off screen basically, and then they give the emotional weight to like Wasp Woman, which kind of makes more sense because Wasp Woman is like was way more popular of a kaijin in the original series, and that's mostly because there's like not too many like female kaijins, and people were like, I don't know, I guess thought she was cute. Her design is okay. If you ever I'll wait, I'll post what her original design looks like, and you're gonna see because it's very like it's very 70s. and it's let's just say the color scheme is not what they used in the movie. Let's just say they went with because Spider Og is pretty similar to what he originally looked like. Um, it just feels very like updated. Like that's Wasp Woman in the original, right?
That's really fucking funny. I like how the tits are like stretched. Like they clearly just like painted those little bullseyes on there before the actress put the suit on.
Right, exactly.
That's really
And
fucking
this is
funny.
what Spider looked like originally.
Oh wow,
And
yeah.
it's pretty close. It's not too far off. Like they did I think a really excellent job like updating like his look. Um I'll,
His like kind of dread looking things just look so awesome.
if you look up every like because the Spider gets like remade a lot in a lot of different adaptations of Kamen Rider. And the one consistent thing, the two consistent thing that every like Spider Og design has is that he always has like the head legs and boots. There's like the two consistent thing with each one of the designs,
That's funny.
right? And fun thing I learned apparently in the prequel manga that those like little symbols that are on a Spider Og's legs are apparently his kill count. So he adds a new one every time he murders someone.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. And I think that's it. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, a really good movie. Really, really enjoyable little flick.
Yep, enjoyable.
I love these fucking like I saw a bunch of these set photos of the characters just like smiling, posing
Yeah,
next to
it's
each
cute.
other. Just really
It
funny.
is cute. I think they did the thing where they're using a telephone, which is a reference to 70s
Yeah, I
promoto
saw
in
that.
70s promo images. They also do a bit with a telephone. Yeah, it's pretty cute. All right, I think we're at the end here. Jim, got anything to promote?
JoJo's back, baby. It's been back for the past few months. You can listen to me and my buddy, who I mentioned earlier, Sam, who's the big Kamen Rider
Mm-hmm.
fan. We talk about the new JoJo chapter every month on Joe Kakaka. Check us out, Joe
Gotcha.
Kakaka.
Yeah, JoJo's back in Pog form, and Pod and Jim over here is pogging all over them. Um, you know me, Cheesymanfredo. This is the Cheesymanfredo podcast channel. But only when it's not though. When I'm posting shit that isn't podcast related. I'm making comics. I am. I am announcing my. Oh yeah, that's Spider from Kamen Rider the First, which is an awful movie. It's a terrible movie.
He looks so
He's cool
funny.
though. I like his design. That's the one thing that's consistent. All the Kamen Rider adaptations could be they vary in quality, but the costumes are always like really good. Um, we're gonna have to watch. We're gonna watch Kamen Rider the First for unofficial Toku cast because I really want you guys to see how bad that movie is. Um, yeah,
Sounds good.
it'll make you like Shin Kamen Rider more. You're like, oh yeah, great, fucking awesome. But yeah, I'm making comics. I'm announcing it now. I'm working on my Kamen Rider fanfic coming out in 20 twenty
Oh.
forty two. My Kamen Rider fanfic, which is well,
it's done, folks. But he's just
yeah,
sitting on
exactly.
it.
I'm slowly chiseling away. It's gonna be great. It's just gonna be just like Shin Kamen Rider, but only my version. There's gonna be a lot of quips. It's gonna be like if Shin Kamen Rider was an MCU movie. Is my version.
That fucking sucks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and yeah, I think we're done for unofficial cinema club.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm glad we got to talk about it because I was like, I don't know, curious about a lot of the background stuff that I don't have context for. So I feel like I had a lot of questions
All
answered
right,
here.
awesome. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad I could help. Um, yeah, and I think that's it. I'm gonna stop recording now.